Welcome back to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. I'm Richard.
I'm Noah. I was trying to figure out how to slip a Kermit voice in here somewhere, but we started quickly. Kermit the Frog here.
Oh, that's really good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to just redo it?
No. We're already started. December is upon us. Well, not at the time of this recording, but by the time this video goes live, it is December, Christmas season, and what better way to kick it off than with a Christmas movie, The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Which was an absolute delight yesterday.
All right.
So, Muppet Christmas Carol is a movie that you requested on our list of December films.
Yes, I did.
And I think the thing that I'm interested in the most is why you mentioned it a lot. This is something you clearly enjoy.
I enjoy it. I mean, okay, you have a classic story that works. Everyone knows you can take the Christmas Carol and you can redo it in as many different ways as you want, and it'll always, at its core, the story works.
Yes.
Therefore, most adaptations of it are going to be good. At least. They're at least going to be good or solid or have a good story at them. But then you take the Muppets. All right, hey, this is just a winning combination here. You know, the Muppets redoing it's like Wishbone on PBS. It was,
Okay.
But it's the Muppets. You can't go wrong with the Muppets.
Did Wishbone do a Christmas Carol?
No, he just did. You know the premise of Wishbone back in the day. The dog would act out the main character of a book.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
It's like that. But again, it's the Muppets.
Well, I realized something yesterday watching this. This is kind of crazy, but when the Muppets came out, I was kind of anti-Muppet.
Yeah,
because I grew up with Sesame Street. Mm-hmm. When I realized that they were leaving Sesame Street and moving on and doing the other thing, I had a real difficult time adjusting to that. This is kind of weird, but and there was a lot about the Muppet Show that I didn't understand, didn't appreciate, didn't particularly like.
Well, the thing is that the Muppets came first. Have you seen the original Kermit? Coffee commercials?
Yes, I have.
Black and white. Yes, I have. They're hilarious. But he struggled for years to get the actual Muppets off the ground.
Jim Henson?
Yeah.
Okay.
No one thought that it was like making a cartoon for adults. In the mid-2000s, people were trying to make these cartoons for adults. It was something like what The Simpsons kind of helped pioneer.
Sure.
For a lot of people. To convince people that this isn't just a kid's medium.
Right. Futurama, King of the Hill.
All these things started coming out, started by, he did that with puppets. Everyone thought that it was a kid's medium, but the Muppets show is kind of made, it's family friendly for the most part, but it's kind of more leaning towards adults.
It is.
It's kind of like Animaniacs in a little bit.
It's an interesting comparison.
Made for kids, great for adults.
Yes.
So, the Muppets, if you delve into the history of Jim Henson and the Muppets, it's rather fascinating.
Well, I sat there watching this yesterday and I was delighted. So let me just dial back just a little bit.
Let's go.
So back in the late 80s, early 90s, a then very, very close friend of mine, he and I wrote a new adaptation of A Christmas Carol for stage. Mm-hmm. And what we wanted to do was take as much from the original story, Dickens' work, and put it in and just be loyal to the original story.
Okay.
And having worked on that relentlessly for a couple of years and being involved in the production of it a couple of times, I kind of burned out on A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
I found the story to be just a little bit tedious.
Yeah.
So I haven't looked at A Christmas Carol in a long time.
Yeah.
So when I sat down and I watched it yesterday, I was watching it more for the Muppets than I was for the story. And I have a newfound appreciation for the Muppets. Let me just say that, because when I saw the boomerang fish, I just you know, I just started laughing. And you know, the little things like Rizzo the rat eating an apple, and Gonzo says, "Hey, what are you doing? You're eating the product." He says, "I'm creating scarcity. Drives up the prices." I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen this movie before. It came out in, I think, 92.
Oh, you have seen it before. It came out in 92. I think this is one of the first big Muppet projects that came out after Jim Henson died.
Gotcha.
Which is why at the beginning it says "in loving memory of Jim Henson." And
I didn't even notice that when I watched it.
Yeah. I think it was one of the big ones.
Gotcha.
Like the first ones to come out without Jim at the helm.
So it was a story that took the core key elements of A Christmas Carol, the ones that my friend and I thought, you know, really didn't exist in a lot of the versions.
Okay.
And it delivered them in a single sentence very well.
It's incredible. It's so so this movie is half Christmas Carol, half Muppet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other way of putting it.
Right.
It's one half the actual story, one half Muppets being Muppets.
Just the zaniness of Muppets.
The absolute insanity, you know, wild imagination that the Muppets inspires.
Well,
singing vegetables and
here's the interesting thing, because they balance that so well, and it's like probably the first two things that I had written down when I saw it. Right,
pull up my notes too.
Right,
let's go.
A quote. It just says, "But there's nothing in nature that freezes your heart like years of living alone."
Yeah, and
then right after that, the line, "Even the vegetables didn't like him."
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's just like you go from this emotional heartstring tug to you know, I have a sticker in a store that says "Broccoli doesn't like you either."
Yeah. The Muppets is it. I think this ties into just how Jim Henson wanted the Muppets to be portrayed. So have you seen his philosophy behind how he wanted the Muppets to kind of be in the public eye? He wanted them to be not just like, you know, Kermit's not just a puppet. When someone goes onto a talk show and Kermit is on the talk show, it's Kermit.
Yes.
You know, they accommodate the puppeteer, obviously, but Kermit is the one being interviewed, not the puppeteer. Which I think there's one interview of Jim Henson with Kermit doing that, but he wanted them, which is why at the beginning of this movie, the Muppets are credited as the actors. It's Kermit playing Bob Cratchit. It's Miss Piggy as Emily.
Yes.
You know, Michael Caine has third bidding to a sock.
Jeff Dunham talks about this. And it's that moment when the interviewer talks to the puppet and not to the ventriloquist sitting next to him. That's when
the puppet is alive.
Right.
You know?
And then here is the problem with, I would never say nobody pick up the mantle of Kermit.
Yeah.
Right. I would never say that. But when so much of Jim Henson's personality is in Kermit, that when you have a new puppeteer doing it, through death or retirement or moving on to other projects, whatever it be, you don't have the same character.
There's a little loss.
There's a little loss.
Yeah, they even, as admirable as it is to try to mimic it, because we all know the Kermit face. All you have to do is type in the Kermit face on Google. You're going to get that.
Yep.
There's so much expression you could do with just his mouth.
Yes.
It's still not the same. It's still not the same as classic Jim Henson doing Kermit.
You're right, and it never will be. And that's just unfortunately part of it.
It's unfortunately part of it. But, I mean, overall, we're talking about Muppets and puppets. And, and the wizardry on display in this movie is incredible. The seamless integration of Muppets and live actors on a set is incredible.
And the camera angles are different because, you know, with the Muppet Show, everything was straight on.
Yes.
Right? And you knew that the set was 6 feet up in the air.
And there are people underneath doing this.
Except that in this, you have Muppets on the ground.
Yes.
And you have live actors on the ground, and
yeah.
it's seamless.
Yes.
And that is delightful.
It's so good.
Right.
It blends so well, and the Muppets are so lifelike in their character.
Yes.
Not even in their movements, just in their character, that you don't care when you see the little stick that's holding up their arm.
No, you
they
really
just
don't.
leave it in. They don't even try to hide it. Like half the rats in the booking room are like on sticks when they're writing. And
well, but the Muppets have always been that way.
Yeah.
You always just accepted it for, it's like a marionette.
Yeah.
You're going to see the strings.
You're going to see it. But the artistry is in how well that just slips your mind as you're watching the performance.
Yeah, you just accept it for what it is, and you roll with it.
Yeah,
and it's not a distraction in any way, shape, or form. He's a victim of fear and pride. That is a great statement. He's a victim of fear and pride. This is coming while he's walking down the street, and he goes inside his house, and Gonzo and Rizzo want to look inside, and so Gonzo picks up the rat and cleans it.
Yeah,
it's like you have this beautiful balance of insanity with the emotion of the story.
Yeah, and
I'll be honest with you, I never appreciated Gonzo ever as a character like I did in this movie.
Gonzo is a great. I think one of the things they did is when Jim Henson, when he died, and Kermit started getting, he obviously top billing. As Kermit, but he kind of got pushed into those like background roles where he's an important character in the story, but he's not the main character of the story.
Yep.
And then Gonzo is taking that narrator. Gonzo as a narrator is great. I'm Charles Dickens. No, you ain't.
If you ever,
from Joyzy,
ever, even if I never own a fireplace, if you can ever find me a Rizzo the Rat Bellows, I want it. I know. That was great. I think Rizzo the Rat is a bellows. It's like the best part of the movie.
That was so funny. Talking about so we could touch on the adaptation of the story. Now we're just having fun about talking about Muppets, But in that same vein, I love the we have mortgage payments to send out, mortgage statements. But sir, tomorrow's Christmas. Very well, you can gift wrap them.
Yes, that was a great line.
It's a fantastic line. Played completely straight. So good. And let's talk about Michael Caine in this movie.
So
we've talked in the past about how reliable an actor Michael Caine is.
Yeah, and so did you notice when he was walking down the street, the storefront in the background that said Micklewhite's?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know the reference on that?
Isn't that
it's Michael Caine's name.
Yes.
He was born Maurice Micklewhite.
Yeah, that's
right?
why that's because union rules and whatnot.
Yeah, I love that touch.
Yeah.
I just love that nod to the human being who's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to look up Michael Caine's age when he did this movie. He was 59 when he did it.
Gee.
Yeah. And
he's like 91 now, you know this.
Yes, I know. and he doesn't look 91.
No, he doesn't.
And made me wonder, what have I done with my life up to this point? But there are times in this movie where he's acting, and all the different variations of Ebenezer Scrooge, and everyone has their own take on his character, but you had to play this for kids, so you had to dial down a lot of the delivery. Because
Scrooge is a very, very intense character.
He can be, yes.
He can be.
Yes, and I actually prefer that Scrooge. I prefer the angrier, painful Scrooge, because it makes the redemption at the end that much more poignant.
Yes.
But Michael, I read a short quote yesterday that said the only reason he agreed to do this movie is because he had a 7-year-old daughter and she couldn't see any of his previous works, and he wanted to make something that she could watch.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so,
and they kind of touch on that in the beginning, where they're like, you don't want him to yell at you.
Right.
And then he gives a couple more intense moments of yelling.
Yes.
Still dialed down, obviously. But...
So you keep it in the frame of this is, kind of aimed towards kids a little bit.
Yeah.
And then but there were points in the movie where he was just standing there doing nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Just standing there doing nothing. I mean, what a hard day's work. I'm going to stand on set in costume and I'm just going to stare at this 7-foot tall dude dressed like the Ghost of Christmas Present while he does this thing, and I'm just going to stand there. And I just thought, wow, that was really good money for just standing there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, there are moments in the movie where it feels like he's dialing it in and, just sending it in. And there's other moments when he's really doing a nice job.
I think the very beginning of the movie, when he is that really intense, mean Scrooge, is probably one of the best, because he is playing it straight to... I imagine it's not easy to act alongside a puppet. And that I mentioned the quote, it'll be brought up again, but Tim Curry is the other actor who people love his performance alongside the Muppets.
Okay.
Along with Michael Caine in this.
Right.
And people they compare the two performances like this. I don't remember if one of them said this or if they just picked up on it, but Michael Caine treats the Muppets like they're fellow actors.
Okay.
So he plays it like this is a human being standing in front of him that he's acting in front of and acting with. And then Tim Curry plays himself like he's another Muppet.
Oh, gotcha.
So you get two different takes on performances that kind of immerse you in it. So, and Tim Curry was in Muppet Treasure Island.
All right. So if you've ever listened to, and this is appropriate since you have the hat on, if you've ever listened to Mark Hamill talk about acting with Yoda, where you're making eye contact.
Frank Oz.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Making eye contact with the puppet.
Yeah.
Speaking to the puppet, and then somebody else cut, and the puppet goes.
Yeah. It's gotta be.
It's gotta be weird.
It's gotta be weird, especially when you have such talented puppeteers.
Yes.
Giving it such lifelike movements. So
great.
The artistry on this was amazing. I'll put one more real quick nod. First off, Marley and Marley.
Okay, so that's the next thing on here.
Marley and Marley. It's such a great song. The music is great.
The opening line of the story. Marley was dead to begin with.
Yeah.
And so when they open it with the Marleys are dead to begin with, you knew who the Marleys were.
And you knew immediately.
And I have to admit, as much as I struggled with not liking the Muppets early on, Waldorf and Statler have always been absolutely hysterical.
They're so good.
And they were great. All right. So, and you knew who that was going to be, and they did not disappoint.
And I love the fact that they actually used the Pepper's Ghost technique on those two. So
Pepper's Ghost technique?
Pepper's Ghost is a technique where you essentially make a hologram.
So
that they appear transparent.
Gotcha.
And that's what they did with these two.
Oh, very nice.
That's what they did with it. They used Pepper's Ghost on Muppet. It was great. I loved it. That's why they look transparent. It's used in a lot of stage and amusement park rides. Haunted Mansion uses it a lot at Disney. In the ballroom, where you've got all the ghosts floating in and out. That's what the technique is called.
And then right after that, I think this might come in the song. I'm not certain. So Prison Comes with Hate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I heard that and I just went, wait a minute. Did I just hit the pause, rewind the video a little bit? Did I just hear this? I mean, there's such amazing observations in the middle of this zany puppet show because you get that whole bit with Gonzo on the ground, Rizzo on top of the gate,
fence. Right? I'm afraid
he finally jumps down. First, you get the miss, right? Then you get him running through the bottom of the gate, right? That is hysterical,
But then you get these seeds of wisdom just planted everywhere. In such poetic lines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Coming in the middle of that, and then Gonzo and Rizzo on the rope being dragged by the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah,
we're gonna talk about that one in a second.
Oh no, you know, it's so stinking funny because here they are. You know, they throw the grappling hook on the rope. They grab them. They're being dragged along. This is absolutely hysterical. And when they finally land, one of them's holding a rooster, weather vane, right? And this great line: "I'm from Jersey." I'm just. It was a riot. I loved it. It was absolutely.
Oh, it was great.
Great.
Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's nightmare fuel. That thing was terrifying. That was creepy. I remember seeing this as a kid and being freaked out by that. That was nope.
Of the three ghosts, the Ghost of Christmas Past is the hardest to
represent.
It's the hardest to perform.
Oh, I get it.
And I think Scrooge did it the best with Carol Kane.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's a hard one. But yeah, that's kind of a frightening puppet.
That was a fair. And I like Ghost of Christmas Present. I like that one. And it adds a little bit of sadness alongside, because that's especially in this portrayal, that was the happiest, that was the safest that Scrooge felt. Like, he was starting to get his eyes opened. It wasn't solidified.
Right.
But he's like, he feels safe with the Ghost of Christmas Present. And then having the Ghost of Christmas Present straight up die. You know, he mentions it in the beginning. 1,800 of my brothers have come before me.
Right.
He says what's going to happen at the beginning. And Scrooge is so relieved by... It just plays into the whole story of the three ghosts and how they interact with him. They did it really well. You got this joyous... happy Father Christmas looking spirit, and then he dies, leaving Scrooge alone.
Yes.
Instead of just disappearing and saying, "Oh, the next one's coming," he's like, "Nope, it's my time. It's time to go. It's time for me to go." And that sets Scrooge up for the solidifying message of the third ghost, which is, it really worked well. I think that was very creative how they did everything.
Yeah, I think it is. The Ghost of Christmas Past, the most important part about that whole sequence in any version is whether or not they actually portray and really focus on his loneliness, how he's been abandoned by his family, how he has no family, and how everything that makes him who he is his defense mechanism against emotional pain.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know that that's always successfully carried out in productions of A Christmas Carol, and in this movie does it perfectly.
It does.
They got the right balance.
The only thing it doesn't do is really show that he didn't have a family to return to as a child in this version. I think is what is implied. He didn't have a family to go back to and celebrate Christmas with.
They took out his sister coming getting him.
Yeah, they took that out. But the rest of that, of showing him lonely as a child into a young adult, is, again, expertly done.
Yes, it is.
It's fantastically done, showing that loneliness and that isolation. And Sam Eagle being his headmaster was just enough to lighten the mood.
Yep.
Is that how we do it in America?
Yes.
In Britain.
It's the American way.
It's the British way.
All right.
That's
so, Fezziwig's Rubber Chicken Factory was hysterical.
Oh, man.
But,
I love that.
I love that. And then there's one line that comes in that I don't know if you ever remember me saying when you were a kid, because prior to you seeing the movie, you probably... you wouldn't know the reference. Light the light, not the rat.
Yep. And then he carries him in and he's completely frozen.
Yes, I know. Yes, the ratsicle. So I'm listening to the song, It Feels Like Christmas, and I'm wondering, why isn't that a standard Christmas song that is played every year? Because that's a wonderful song.
Yes.
That is an absolutely wonderful song.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
The music in this was awesome.
Yep.
Overall.
So,
yeah. The mid-20s Scrooge, that was perfect casting in terms of looks. That dude looked exactly like a young Michael.
Yes.
I didn't mention this at the start of it, but I love the line, "You will be visited by 3 ghosts." And he's, well, can't I just beat them all at once and be done with it?
No, that's actually from the original.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
That's
hilarious.
As serious as the original is.
Yeah, it has some.
There are moments like that, but
Okay.
Scrooge's he's impatient.
Yes.
In the very beginning, and he's sarcastic because it's very clear that he doesn't believe what's taking place. That's that whole thing. You could be a blot of mustard, a bit of undigested beef.
Yeah.
I don't believe what you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I first saw this movie as a kid, and the Ghost of Christmas Future shows up.
Yeah.
I was a kid when this happened, and I'm really glad that this wasn't the case. But when I was a kid first watching this, I legitimately thought Sweetums was going to pop his head out of the hood. The big brown one. The big brown monster.
Gotcha.
That's Sweetums. I half expected Sweetums to pop out.
I did not know Sweetums' name.
His name is Sweetums. I love him from the Muppets movie, the first Muppets movie, where he's always chasing after Kermit and Fozzie. I want to go to Hollywood. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, I mean, in terms of an by itself, it's charming. The Muppets, as always, our Muppets are in full Muppet form here.
Yes, they are.
You've got the craziness, you've got the humor, you've got they play so well off each other. There's so much character that comes from felt, but as an adaptation, I think it's a very solid adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
Oh, it is a solid adaptation, and it's fun, and it is full of heart.
They took it seriously. They took it as like, we're going to do this right.
Did you notice at the end? Scrooge goes through his transformation. He brings an oversized.
Oh, and Michael Caine can't really sing that well, but you know what? He put his effort into it.
Oh, he did a good job. He was fine.
Yeah,
he was fine.
Yeah.
They kept it within his range.
Exactly.
He performed it well.
Yeah. I didn't say he was bad. I just didn't say he's not a pro singer.
No, he is not by any means. They could have dubbed it, but why?
Why would you just let him do it? There's more heart to it that way. The way they did it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was kind of amused at the end of this whole thing because Scrooge goes on his apology tour.
Yeah.
He stops and he delivers presents and the whole bit. Then he brings a huge raw turkey over to the Cratchits, which just doubles Mrs. Cratchit's workload.
I know.
For the day. Then he invites about 100 people over. And then the Cratchit house and table suddenly elongates so that everybody can fit in at the same time. And what was absolutely hysterical about that sequence where the camera pans along the table and then pans outside is that it gets to the end of the table and there's two horses.
The two horses that have been throughout the whole thing.
And then the camera goes out the door, across the street, up the wall, and there's a lobster in each window. That nailed it for me.
There
are no wasted moments in this movie.
There's not.
If there's not a strong emotional tug, there is zaniness and laugh out loud hilarity.
And it's perfectly paced. It's perfectly paced.
Yes.
Because not all the jokes are the same. Some of them are like blink and you miss it. Some of them are slapstick. Some of them are really, really good puns. Some of them are just Muppets being stupid.
Yep.
And one of them is a rubber chicken factory.
That is hysterical.
We would be
remiss
to talk about A Christmas Carol adaptation without talking about Tiny Tim.
Oh yeah, couldn't have cared less.
Yeah,
couldn't have cared less. You know what? We all know the story of Tiny Tim and the salvation of Tiny Tim.
He's the heart, tug for the story,
but.
In every adaptation, he's supposed to be the anchor that brings Scrooge back down. And he sees he sees an innocent life
that he can save.
Yeah. And see how true innocence. Like Scrooge is obviously very jaded,
Yes.
and doesn't have faith in humanity just across the board.
Right.
But now he's faced part of the big thing about the story is that he can't interact with everything. So he has no control. For once in his life, he's got all control taken away from him.
Yes.
So now he can't justify anything, and he sees this innocent creature that's so kind, despite all the true hardships it has faced that make his look so minuscule in comparison. It is the emotional core of the story, too, I think.
Well, there's all the innocence of a young child who has, an issue and is living with it. Doesn't know any different and doesn't allow it to turn them into a little monster.
Yeah.
So, someone like that.
Yeah.
So
but in terms of, they did it as well as any other adaptation I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, they did a wonderful job with it. I just for me, partly because I know the story as well as I do, is that I was just focused on other things. And I was
on the rest of what's going on.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
I think across the board, this is it's a good movie. It's a stellar adaptation.
Yes,
and it's a wonderful Muppet romp.
And it's a movie that you can put on and you can put your kids in front of it and you don't have to worry about anything.
Yep.
Except maybe some Ghost of Christmas Future.
Aren't we worried about scaring the children? They say that, right? No,
not at all. All right. Anything
Muppet
else?
No, that's about it. Muppet Christmas Carol. What are your thoughts on it? Is this a staple in your household around the holiday season? Let us know your thoughts and more in the comment section down below.
So, and we have a list of movies that we want to cover in December. But if you have a suggestion, it's early enough. Drop your suggestions. We might be able to shuffle the list because there might be something that comes up where we're like, "Hey, that's a really good idea." So, yeah, all right. Except for like Freddy Krueger's Last Christmas, I'm not going to do that.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.